With the NFL trade deadline less than a month away, Adam Schefter just put out a major report about New York Giants trade targets as well as candidates, and we're going to break it down on this video. But first, if you want to beat the Broncos this Sunday, subscribe to the channel. My guy Moose, who hosts the Broncos Breakdown here at Chat Sports, he has challenged us to a Week 7 sub-battle. Which channel is going to pick up more subscribers? The ball is in your court. If you love the Giants and want free videos every day, and want to beat the Broncos, hit the sub button right now. This is New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. I'm still enjoying Victory Monday, even though I also enjoyed Victory Friday. On today's show, we'll go over 3 players that Adam Schefter has named as New York Giants trade candidates, and then we'll go over some players that he has listed as trade targets across the other 31 teams. Let's start with the Giants quarterback, Russell Wilson. Not surprised that Wilson is listed as a trade candidate, according to Adam Schefter. But I think at this point, my question would be is, what teams are really all that interested in trading for Wilson? And what is the return the New York Giants could potentially get? A team that I thought Russell Wilson could have been traded to was the Cincinnati Bengals after the Giants lost to the Dallas Cowboys. But all of y'all said that was clickbait. Then they went out and traded for Joe Flacco. So I think that takes them off the board. I don't really see any teams across the NFL that will be looking to trade for Russ. But if the Giants can get anything back in a trade, even Russell Wilson and a 7th for a 6th, I would do it. I actually think Jameis Winston should be the QB2 for the Giants. I think he can just do things a little bit better on the football field in a similar fashion to Jaxson Dart. And I've just seen enough of Mr. Russell Wilson. Another player listed by Schefter as a trade candidate is veteran running back Devin Singletary. With the emergence of Cam Scatterbo and Tyrone Tracy getting back healthy, this one makes sense on paper. Singletary is under contract next year as well. The New York Giants can move on from him and save some money if they want. But with a limited workload on his plate and teams across the NFL looking for running backs, there was a report the LA Chargers are interested in backs. It could make some sense. And I could see why if the Giants got a reasonable trade offer, they would do it. But like Wilson, I don't really know what you would get back. I think it'd be a similar package. Singletary and a 7th for a 6th. I don't see anyone giving up any premium draft picks for Motor. And while I do like having him on this team, I'd be willing to move off of him for draft compensation. But to make a deal, you need 2 to tango. And I don't know who's giving up a draft pick for Motor. I like the veteran leadership. I like the depth we have if an injury does happen. But if I can move off of Motor and his salary next year and get a 6th for a 7th swap, I would absolutely do it. Evan Neal was the last player that Adam Schefter listed as a trade candidate for the New York Giants. And similar to Wilson and similar to Singletary, who is going to trade for Evan Neal? Neal hasn't even been dressed one time this season. He has been a healthy scratch for all 6 games for the New York Giants. He is just taking up a roster spot. Hasn't played a snap in 2025. And I don't really see that changing as long as he is continued to be employed by the New York Giants. Like, you have Aaron Stinney, who they trust. You also have Austin Schlottman, who they like. I believe if push came to shove and both offensive guards, Runyon and Van Roten, got hurt, I think they would actually put Marcus Bowe in there instead of Evan Neal, considering Neal hasn't even dressed at this point. If you can get anything back for any 3 of these players, I would do it. I don't think a lot would be coming. At most, 7th and a player for a 6th at this point. Look, I just don't see any team that is beating the walls down and making the phone ring off the hook for Russell Wilson, Devin Singletary, or Evan Neal at this point. But if a trade does go down, we're going to get you guys a video as soon as possible. So subscribe and turn those notifications on for free videos every day on your New York Football Giants. Coming up next, Adam Schefter has listed trade candidates for other teams, all 31 other teams. And some of those players I think could make some sense for the New York Giants at specifically the wide receiver spot. We'll react to that in a second, but I want to let you guys in on a little bit of a secret. When you go to chatsports.com/Giants shirt, chatsports.com/Giants shirt, you can get this Giants Nike t-shirt and save some money. It was $45. Now it is just $35. Save yourself $10 at chatsports.com/Giants t-shirt. Alrighty, Chris Olave has been a name that has been circling around the Giants talk on the internet for the past couple of weeks. Adam Schefter has listed him as a trade candidate for the New Orleans Saints. The 25-year-old wide receiver is in the fourth year of his rookie scale contract. He is on the books next year with his fifth-year option being picked up by the Saints for $15 million. And with uncertainty surrounding his future, and if he wants to be a Saint long-term, it makes some sense that they could potentially move on from him. Tom Pelissero on the Rich Eisen show said he thinks a third-round pick going to New Orleans could get it done in a trade. The Giants do not have a third-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft as they move that in part of the Jaxson Dart trade. So they would have to get a little bit creative. Maybe they could send a 2027 third-round pick and maybe like a sixth-round pick this year. Look, I think Chris Olave is a good player. I don't know if he is a great player. I view him as a really good wide receiver 2 and a low-end wide receiver 1. And if you're going to make a trade for Olave, you're doing so with the intent of him being here long-term. So you have to ask the question, is that the wide receiver that you want next to Malik Nabers for potentially the next 5+ years? He's a good player. He's had 2 1,000-yard seasons in his career. But is he a good complement next to Nabers? I think he could be. And does he fit what Jaxson Dart is looking for? Maybe you want a bigger, more possession type of receiver that's better at contested catches. We've seen Dart has liked that type of receiver. And to be honest with you, the concussion issues and the injury issues with Olave, they scare me. Is he a good player? Yes. Would he help the Giants right now? Yes. Would the Giants be lucky to have a receiver of the caliber of Chris Olave to be wide receiver 2 in the future? Yes. Do I want them to go out and trade for Olave? I don't know. Will I be pumped up if they do? Yes. Will I talk myself into it? Absolutely. The more good players you can have, the better. The question is he the best player that you can get at that spot? We'll figure it out. If all it takes is a third-round pick, though, I think I would be calling New Orleans and seeing if we could get that deal done. Let's stay in the Big Easy as Rashid Shaheed, wide receiver for the Saints, has been listed as a trade target via Adam Schefter. Shaheed, I think maybe could go for a 5th-round pick or a 6th-round pick, and he's kind of similar to some receivers the New York Giants have in Darius Slayton as well as Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt. He's a better deep threat than Robinson, but he is a guy that once the ball is in his hands, he can go the distance. He can take the top off the defense. We saw that up close and personal back in Week 5. I like Rashid Shaheed. I'm not giving up premium draft capital for the 27-year-old wide receiver. Good player, not a great player. I'd rather have Olave, but if you're trying to make a lower value deal in the sense of not trying to give up awesome premium draft capital, Shaheed could make some sense. I would be looking elsewhere at the receiver position. Jakobi Meyers was another wide receiver named by Schefter as a trade candidate. This is one I am interested in. I think that he could go for a 4th or a 5th round pick, and he will be a free agent at the end of the season. So I think the idea of trading for him and extending him could potentially lower the price that the Las Vegas Raiders are asking for. And I like his complement next to Malik Nabers. Not nearly as explosive as Olave, but a bigger wide receiver at 6'2", 200 pounds. Someone that can line up in the slot. Someone that can line up outside. One of the top receivers when it comes to just strictly catching the football, getting open, and being successful in contested catch opportunities. I like Jakobi Meyers. I think it'd be a good move. I would probably do it for a 5th. Not sure if I would do it for anything more than that. Do the Giants go out and make a trade for a receiver? I don't know. Look, Darius Slayton didn't play and he was hurt. Do I think that what the Giants were able to do against Philadelphia Eagles can be recreated? Yes. Is that the standard and what I'm expecting every week? No. I know the Giants were hurt as well, but so were the Eagles. Quinyon Mitchell essentially did not play in that game. And I think that we're going to see this week against Denver that it's not as sweet when you get to go up against Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson compared to Patrick Surtain, one of the most lockdown corners in the NFL. So I think we'll get a better test of what this receiver group can do. I was impressed and happy with the way they played against the Eagles, but I think the reality is a little bit closer to them just not being all that great compared to what we saw versus Philadelphia. I kind of just end on this. I would love to add a wide receiver for the right price. I think getting another guy that can get open, make plays after the catch, go up in high point balls, and be able to be a factor in 50-50 situations and contested catch situations is only going to help Jaxson Dart this year. And I think getting him off to a better start this year will help in the future, not stunt his growth, and having a guy that he could build with and connect with for years to come. I'm not really in love with the idea of giving up premium draft capital plus having to pay that player big money. You did that with Brian Burns. It worked. It's not really the way you need to consistently operate to build a football team and get the most out of all of your assets. Now, if there's a team out there that wears green and they want to trade their star receiver for a second-round pick, then yeah, we could talk about that because I think he's a top wide receiver in the league, and him and Malik Nabers going forward would be awesome. For Olave, I would love to get Olave for a third. What does that contract look like going forward, and how many injuries is he away from not playing football anymore? The concussions are a real scare for me. I want to add more good football players to this team. At what price, and what are the consequences of that? That's something that Joe Schoen's going to have to figure out. If there's a move that presents itself that you can't say no to, go out and do it. If it's one that you think could cripple you into the future, don't do it. Look, wins change everything in this league. And maybe the Giants believe they're an Olave away from winning 6, 7, 8, 9 games this year. I don't know. I think it would help. Definitely wouldn't hurt. For a third-round pick, that's a guy that went in the first round. He's had 2 1,000-yard seasons before. Would you trade? Should you trade for a receiver if you were the Giants? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Make sure you are following me on social media. I tweet about the Giants every day. I post short-form content about Big Blue on Instagram as well. So give me a follow at @MarshallGreen_.